Sleeping in the dirt isn't how most people like to spend their vacation. For most people, sleeping in the dirt is a last resort, not a first. And most people try to minimize their dirt sleeping, not seek it out on a regular basis. I'm not like most people though, in case you haven't noticed. When I was a little guy, well, one of the labels that got stuck on me, besides the dweeb, was nature boy. Because if you saw little me around my house or in the schoolyard, I was always crouched down in the bushes or the ditch or the dirt, playing with centipedes or digging up some cool rock or something. I found this one the other day actually. And no, you can't have it. It's mine. I need it. But as I grew older and rediscovered the great outdoors, I tried all sorts of ways to camp. But it was when I got into ultralight backpacking that I really fell in love with solo hiking and camping. The idea with ultralight is that you take as little stuff as possible, so your pack can be as light as possible, so you can focus on enjoying the journey rather than it feeling like a slog. You might have heard of through hiking. That's where you hike for months and months on end, doing the Appalachian Trail or the Pacific Crest Trail or whatever. Lots of those guys are ultralight guys. When we travel ultralight, everything we bring with us has to be the most minimalist version. These ultralight guys do things like cut the extra straps off their backpack and brush their teeth with hand soap to cut their pack weight. So surely we don't have room in our lighter pack budget to include video games, right? Well, no, that's not right. You're wrong. And you should feel bad. But which handheld to bring is the question. There are lots of handhelds out there, but how many of them are light enough to actually warrant bringing with you when you're so stingy on your pack weight that you're drilling holes in your toothbrush to lighten your load? I think I have the answer, and I'll tell you about it in a bit. But this whole discussion only makes sense in the broader context of what hiking situation that we're talking about. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of what's in my pack. I'm not going to go super in depth and show you absolutely everything that I have in here. I can make entire videos about my various kits, and I really just want to get to the handheld stuff. This is the pack itself. It's very minimalist with no padding or internal support. Basically just an empty bag with straps to hold your BMO. In here I have my folding sit pad, which I grab throughout the day if I take a break, and I also put this under my butt when I go to sleep to keep my buns warm. This is my doodad bag that has my tent pegs and my guy lines, my fire kit, my flashlight kit and batteries, and a few bits and bobs that are important, and my emergency kit. And yeah, we'll talk more about some of this stuff in future videos, I think, because there's a lot in here. And there's also a handheld in there too, which we'll talk about. Here's my water kit, which is my soft water bottle and water filter, and my toiletries bag with TP, soap, and a toothbrush. On my last trip, I didn't bring my cook kit because I don't usually cook when I hike in the summer. I ate trail food on that trip, so tortillas with peanut butter, trail mix, and granola bars, that sort of thing. So here's my food bag. And where I went on my recent trip, they have bear canisters. So I didn't have to use a throw line to hang my food. But I'd have that too if they didn't have the canisters. And then here's my shelter kit. I have my sleeping bag, which isn't really a sleeping bag, but an emergency bivvy. And in here is a ground sheet, my other bivvy / bug net, and my poncho tarp, which is both my shelter and my rain gear. And what's left in the bottom is the pack liner, which is just a trash bag and it keeps everything dry. And at the bottom is my sweater and my shamag, which is like a thin scarf. Oh, and the padding for my pack and my sleeping mat is this super thin, lightweight sleeping mat that I literally bought at the dollar store. I cut this down actually to only like 3/4 length of my body because I'm hardcore like that. My sleeping setup looks like this when it's all set up. There you can see the poncho tarp is my shelter. Under that is my bivvy with a bug net on top of my ground sheet. And in the bivvy, I have my sleeping bag with my sleeping pad in there for quote unquote comfort. And my water bottle is my pillow with a shamag over it as a pillowcase. It doesn't look like much because it's not. And you probably won't believe me when I tell you this, but I swear it's the truth. I sleep like a freaking baby in there. So as you can see, I don't travel with much by way of comfort, but here's the thing. All of this together weighs about 2.1 kilograms or 4.6 pounds. That's the trade-off. This is ultralight territory. That's what we do around these parts. And I've put a lot of thought into how to bring just barely enough to survive and get a good night's sleep. And I also should mention that this is my summer setup, so I don't need to worry about cold weather. I have a slightly heavier 3-season setup and a different setup for the winter, and I'll show them to you someday if you ask me nicely. No time for that today though. Because now it's time to show you the handheld. You probably already know what it is because of the thumbnail for this video or whatever, but it's this, the Funkey S. This is the new transparent Icy Spark version. In my opinion, this is the only handheld that you should consider if you're into ultralight backpacking or thru hiking. It is perfect for this hiking philosophy for so many reasons. But before I can tell you why, I just realized that this needs to be charged up. Hang on, let me ask my friend if he can charge it for me. Hey buddy, oh, right, I don't have any friends. Well, your day is about to get better, TechDweeb, thanks to the sponsor of this video, UGREEN. Who said that? Are you my conscience? Yeah, let's go with that. Okay, so what's UGREEN got to do with my friend and charger situation? Simple, TechDweeb. The UGREEN Uno 100-watt charger isn't just a charger. It's also a tiny little robot that keeps you company and won't ever let you down. A little robot. Hello, Uno. You're a cute little guy. Will you be my friend and play Magic the Gathering with me? The UGREEN Uno can't talk or move or play Magic the Gathering, TechDweeb, but it can listen to your hopes and fears and also make cute little faces at you while it charges your doodads. It outputs 100 watts of power, which is enough juice to take an iPhone 15 Pro from 0% to 60% in just 30 minutes. Wow. That's great, but I have multiple devices that need to be charged up. Uno is amazing, but I doubt he can charge all this stuff at once, right? Don't be stupid, TechDweeb. The UGREEN Uno has 3 USB-C holes and 1 USB-A hole, so it can charge all your gizmos at the same time. I love you, Uno. Let's be friends forever. And if you want some fast and fun charging accessories for the new iPhone or your other tech toys, check out the link in the description below. Well, there you go. Thanks to UGREEN, I have a fully charged Funkey S, and we can get into why this is the perfect handheld for ultralight shenanigans. The best choice for a handheld for an ultralight backpacker. It's the smallest and lightest retro handheld out there. It's actually amazing what it can do considering just how small and light it is. There are lots of reasons to love the Funkey. I reviewed it ages ago on my channel. But it's not going to be for everyone. There are definitely some sacrifices when dealing with a handheld this small and light. But it should be abundantly clear that ultralight backpackers are totally fine with making sacrifices as long as it means they can get what they want and not have it significantly impact their pack weight. Which brings me to the first reason that the Funkey is amazing for ultralight backpacking. The weight. Obviously, I was on a mission to find the lightest retro handheld for me to actually consider bringing on ultralight backpacking trips. You guys know how much I love the Miyoo Mini, but even that was too heavy for this kind of setup. The RG Nano is a little brick, none of the other micro handhelds are light enough, and the Funkey S blows them all out of the water. This thing is 31 grams. That's nuts. And not only is it light, but it's small. I mean, just look at this thing. It's like the size of a Fig Newton. Oh, I freaking love Fig Newtons, man. I carry this in my doodad bag, but it's got this handy little string hole here where you can turn it into like a keychain, so you could easily wear it around your neck on a necklace or something, or even clip it to the outside of your pack. It does come with a nice little case if you're into that sort of thing, but because it's a clamshell, it's basically got its own built-in case. When it's closed, the screen and the buttons are protected, so you don't have to worry about babying it. Speaking of closing the screen, that's another thing that this thing does that makes it amazing for hiking and camping. See, when you're out in the woods, hiking and backpacking and camping, you end up going through periods of lots of activity to lots of downtime. When you're out on the trail, obviously you're not playing games, you're hiking, but maybe you stop to have some lunch or rest your legs because you've been hiking for hours. And instead of watching the loons mate or beavers build a dam, maybe you want to play some Dragon Warrior. So you can whip out your Funkey, open it up, it automatically powers right on, and it boots right back to exactly where you left off in your game. You can literally be playing your game within seconds. And then when the beavers catch sight of you and charge at you with their razor-sharp fangs ready to shred you to pieces, you can snap the Funkey shut and be assured that your game will be saved and the device will turn off on its own as you run for your life. The screen on this thing is kind of crazy good. It's super crisp and really, really bright. It's tiny, only about 1.5 inches on the diagonal, but it's 240 by 240 resolution, which is really high pixel density at that size. It's got great colors, great viewing angles, not to mention that it's a flippy screen, which is ideal for situations like when you're playing in bed. You can angle that screen towards your face and you won't have to hold the device at a weird angle. It's not perfect. I mean, it's small, obviously, which might be a deal breaker for far-sighted people. I can use it fine, but lots of people find the Miyoo Mini too small, and that thing is a giant compared to the Funkey. It's got a 1:1 aspect ratio, which isn't ideal for lots of retro systems, but lots of stuff is ideal for a 1:1 screen like Game Boy and Game Boy Color, Neo Geo Pocket, and even NES. Not that you can't play 4:3 stuff. Systems like Sega Genesis actually play really well, even if you don't stretch them, but the systems that are closer to 1x1 are the best. Funkey claims that the average battery life is an hour and 45 minutes, but in all the real life scenarios I've used this, I've gotten quite a bit more than that. On my last backpacking trip, I was playing with this and I fully expected it to run out of juice and need to charge it up, but it just kept freaking going. This thing only has a 410 milliamp hour battery, but I think it's because I was playing lower end stuff and also I was playing at night, so I had the screen brightness way down. It just seemed to last forever for me. And because the battery is only 410 milliamp hours, it's easy to keep it topped up from your charger if you need to. When it comes to the games, like I said, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Neo Geo Pocket, and NES are the most ideal systems for this thing. And there are so many amazing games for those systems. I love RPGs for the Game Boy and Game Boy Color because the text on those Game Boy systems is usually much bigger and easier to read on this tiny screen. That said, the 4x3 systems are mostly good. Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis are standouts. I don't like to stretch my games, but those systems are still big enough that you can see what's going on, even without the stretch. I don't personally find the Funkey comfortable for most action games, and lots of role-playing games have pretty small text. You can play most games on here, I just prefer the games that are more suited to this screen. And that's kind of the best part. You have access to decades worth of the most amazing retro games at your fingertips. And for those rainy, stormy days that you're stuck in your tent, or in my case, stuck under a tarp, having a ton of amazing games to pass the time is a beautiful thing. ROM files don't weigh anything, so load it up. This wasn't supposed to be a full review, just mostly pointing out why it's great for ultralight backpacking, but if it was a full review, I would be pointing out some of the negatives too, like how it's really small, and if you're not into the dinky nature of this thing, you'll probably find it amusing but not practical. The controls aren't great, they're fine for slower paced games, and they're alright for action games, but I don't really enjoy playing like platformers and stuff on here. Also, another kind of weird downside is lots of the aspect ratios are wonky. PC Engine doesn't have a proper scaling option. Same thing with PS1, it's all kind of weird. And GBA isn't very good. GBA was a 3x2 system, which makes it either really stretched or really small on this 1x1 screen. It's fine for simpler kind of action beat 'em up style games, but it's not good if you need to do any reading at all, which is a shame considering the shape of this thing. So there's some minor gripes, but considering what you get, how small and lightweight and useful this thing is, I am fine with those gripes because, like I said, when you're an ultralight backpacker, you are used to making sacrifices in the name of a lighter pack. And you can have a ton of fun with this thing. And I want to end with the obvious criticism of this entire video, which is, why would someone like me go out into the wilderness to escape the comforts of modern society and bring video games to play? Shouldn't I be sitting watching sunsets and counting the stars in the sky and lighting fires by rubbing sticks together? And my answer is, yeah, I should be doing all that stuff, and I do. Except the fire sticks, that's too much work. It's not like I play games all freaking day when I'm out there. But it's hard, man. Walking 12 hours a day, sweaty and achy, scratched up, being chased by deer flies, possibly wet if it's raining, possibly cold if it's cold. Keeping a fire going takes a ton of work. Keeping your shelter up and all your stuff safe and organized, staying dry, staying fed, staying hydrated, and the beautiful sights that I see all day make it worth it. I soak it in and it fills me with awe and wonder at the magical world we live in and all that garbage. But sometimes I just need a break, man. When I hunker down for the night under a tarp, into my bug net, using my water bottle for a pillow, and the only relief is sleep, which isn't gonna come for a few hours because the sun just went down and it's only 8 p.m. In those times, being able to escape into the magical world of Dragon Warrior or get the next gym in Pokemon is a great way to chill out after a hard day. Obviously, don't use games to ignore the beautiful nature all around you, but when nature has overstayed its welcome and you need a breather, games can take you away for a bit and recharge your batteries for the next leg of your adventure. That's the best way that I could explain it. And if you still think that I should leave the games at home and play with the slugs instead, well, to that I would say, you do it. You freaking do it if it's so great. Show me how it's done, Slug Whisperer. I'll be playing Dragon Warrior while you do. But I'd love to hear from you. Do you do ultralight backpacking? Any other type of camping? Do you bring retro games out into the woods? Which handheld is your weapon of choice? Oh, and what sorts of camping videos do you want to see from me? What gear of mine do you want a closer look at? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, click the like button if you like the video, or don't if you didn't, and subscribe if you haven't. Check out the links to this video's sponsor, UGREEN, and that's it from me for today. I'm TechDweeb, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.